Hello. Hello, hello.
Hey, so you managed to get in.
Yes, yes, yes. But I tried to dial in via video Zoom, and it was taking a while. So I, I'm just calling from phone right now. I think it might be a little bit more stable.
Okay. So you will have to rely
But I
on.
am. But well, wait. So actually, let me try my actually computer to see, because I could still somehow join and be able to get the messages that people like
Yeah,
send
yeah,
it. But
exactly.
let me try.
That would be useful if you can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I can also
yeah.
send
Let
you
me.
the link to Slido. So this is what people use for asking questions. So I can use
Oh,
it. Yeah, I can send it to you. But on the other hand, I also
well, I'm
wanted to
logged in right now.
share my screen. Uh,
I
because like there
I
are
think I'm able to log in. Let me see.
you are okay.
Uh,
Good. I'll
so
just
what
then
I'll
share
do
my
is
screen.
I'll talk from my phone,
Yeah.
because if I talk via internet, it might be super laggy. But
Yeah.
it's spinning right now.
Mhm. And that's your phone written there, right? Because
Yes. So this is my phone, and then I'm trying to
uh-huh. Because
log
like I can
into
see your
Zoom.
number. I hope it's not a big problem.
My personal phone number. That's fine. Whatever.
This is one you are calling from, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know, like if it somehow will get visible on YouTube.
Oh. Okay. Well. Okay. Hold on. Let me call from my other number then. One second.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or how laggy am I?
Pretty laggy. So it
Pretty
was way
laggy.
better from the. But like I don't see actually your phone number anywhere on YouTube.
Well, because I hung up. I hung up.
Wait,
Well,
wait.
I'm gonna call from my.
Yeah, actually it's not bad now. Yeah, I
Okay,
realized.
okay.
But I
This
mean,
is
like,
bad.
I when we were talking, like, I didn't see the phone number here. So this is, I don't know if you can see me, but this
Oh,
is the
oh.
YouTube stream,
All right, I'll go
and I
again.
don't
I'll
see
go again.
myself because, like, you have no
I'll try.
video from the phone, so it shows me, not you. That's why it
Oh,
never showed your number.
all right.
Maybe.
Let's just do that then. I'll just call. I'll dial in again.
Yeah. So
It's
if
dialing in.
something is not working, then you can just dial in again, and then we'll see how it
Oh,
goes.
I'm dialing in right now. But what I can do is
You're.
I'll put myself on mute. I'll mute the phone. Yeah, there. Okay, so this is I'm talking from my computer right now.
Mhm.
And then if I need to talk via my phone when if I start lagging, then I'll
Mhm.
unmute myself.
Mhm. So the quality is actually better when you talk from your computer. The quality of the, like, I can hear your
Okay.
voice, and then of course when it goes through the phone line, it's different, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have the depth. Okay, I think we can
Okay.
start.
I'll just hang up then. Okay, I will hang up my
Yeah.
phone. Gotta save
Yeah,
battery, you know.
let's see, like, if
Who knows when the
something
power's
happens,
back.
we just. And a very important question, when I share my screen, do you see this?
Yeah, I
Well, actually,
yes I
like,
do.
this is not what I wanted you to see, but like this thing, because there will be questions. There is already a bunch of questions. Um, you can see the questions, right? I'll be reading these questions, but like, so you can not just rely on my voice, but also read at the same time. You
Okay.
can see them, right? You can read them.
Yes,
Anyway.
yes. Do you want me to answer them now?
Well, I guess I'll just do a quick intro before we start, and then I'll read the questions, you answer the questions, and then this is how we have fun in the next 1 hour.
Fun.
Oh,
Yay. Woo.
yeah. I don't know how much fun you have without electricity, but like maybe it's at
Uh,
least a
I
bit of entertaining
I hate it,
entertainment
dude,
for you.
because my phone internet is really weak in this area, even though I have
Mhm.
a good phone service. And so without internet, I can't do anything. Well, I can
Mhm.
do stuff. I feel like feel like my arms are gone, you know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, in Germany, internet is not really great. So
Oh, really?
I'm like, I don't know, like somehow it's like the richest country in Europe, but some things are like so outdated.
Dude, tell me about it. I'm in Silicon Valley and we have power outages. I
Yeah,
hear a
right.
neighbor has their generator on.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you, where are you uh,
I'm
like
like 40
currently?
miles. I'm in a pretty good area, you know, and I'm like not too far from San Francisco. I'm not in the middle of nowhere, you know, it's
Mhm.
close to suburban area. Man, that's the problem. So, you know, I don't know how it is in other countries, but there's like one energy provider, you know,
Mhm.
for this whole area for like probably all of California. And, you know, they aren't great. So who do you complain to really? Because they're not going
Yeah.
to be
Well, you can
replaced.
complain to us, to me.
Thank you. You'll send me your power from over there, right?
Yeah. Well, at least it'll help with, venting stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we should start. So
Okay.
hi everyone. Hi Tommy. Long time to see.
Hello.
Yeah, so we have this amazing opportunity to speak to Tommy himself. So this is the instructor for the module number 3, um, workflow orchestration or machine learning pipelines. So basically the module where we talk about Mage. And we already had a call today and I got some feedback from Slack. So a few things before we start. So I recorded already 2 videos and I published them on our Telegram channel, and we will also put them to the playlist and GitHub repo soon. So in these 2 videos, you will see how to run Mage. First, I show how to do it from my Windows machine, which should work also for Linux and macOS. And then the second video is how to run Mage from Codespaces. Because like it was written in the text, but apparently there were some problems. Because like, for example, on Windows, I needed to tweak the file a little bit. So this is what I show in the video. And for the rest, you can just keep watching the videos that Tommy recorded. And yeah, I'll also create another one that talks about what pipeline orchestration is, like why do we need that? Because that was another piece of feedback I got, that it's not clear, because the first video starts immediately with like already doing things in Mage, and we have no clue what's there. So there will be another video that talks about that, talks about motivation, why we need Mage, why we need workflow orchestration in general. And we are also extending the homework by 1 week. So this week we continue working on Mage. And with that, so we have collected a bunch of questions. Thanks, Ella, for putting a lot of them to this Q&A. And now, Tommy, we will use your time to ask these questions. And I guess the biggest problem that I saw that students have is with these global data products. You probably saw, like I saw you and I tagged you in a couple of threads where this problem is mentioned. So I'll just read the question. I'm, to be honest, I'm not sure I completely understand it. So you'll
I
maybe
think
to,
I think I
to
have some context
yes.
because
So
yeah, I worked
let me
on.
just read it. I think we need an overview of how global data products in multi-project setup works with pipelines and blocks. For example, when used in 3 pipelines, is it isolated or not? So yeah, please tell me.
Hey, thank you so much. So the way courses were set up, we broke them into different projects just to progressively, you know, build up to the next module. And unfortunately, that added a lot of confusion or complexity around the global data products because unfortunately, those aren't shared across projects quite yet. That's upcoming, and so it is confusing that to be able to use one and then not be able to use it in another pipeline. And so, to answer the question, the global data products are currently scoped to a single project. So if you create one in, let's say, the unit 2 project, you'll have to also create it again in the unit 3 and so on. And so that's where a lot of the issues came from. So sorry about that.
And what is like, why do we need global data products in the first place?
No, but you actually don't. I just wanted to show a way where you can reuse data or anything that you produce. So let's say you have your trading set. Imagine you have a ton of different models that use it. If you could technically, save that data somewhere and then load that data every single time, or in a real production setting, let's say you wanted to build a training set and you don't want other people to have to rebuild that training set even though the data is still fresh. You could create a global data product, and anytime a pipeline or anybody wants to use that data, it'll check to see, okay, hey, is this data stale or is it up to date? And if it is up to date, then you pull the data that from the most recent run, and that will save you money, that will save you compute, that will save you time. And you could also do this for your machine learning model. So that's what we also did for the training pipeline. We eventually created a global data product for your XGBoost model so that then you could reuse that model in any other pipeline, whether you do your online inference or your offline inference or your batch scoring. So you don't need it. You absolutely don't need it. I just wanted to show how you could easily reuse these data products that you create.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. And I see that there is a comment from the live chat from Raul. Shout out to Mage, it's awesome. So I fully agree.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you so much.
And yeah, so for the next two questions, so they are rather for me than for you, Tommy.
Yeah.
So what files do I need to submit for Mage homework? So one of the options, and this is what I showed in one of the videos I just recorded and published on Telegram, is like when I go to this MLOps Zoomcamp, and I go to model 3.0, and we have this repo, right? So what I showed in the video is that we can fork the repo, create a code space there. It's one of the options. Create a code space there, do the homework, and then after doing that, in MLOps folder, we'll have the homework folder. So this is what you can submit, right? That's one of the alternatives. Depending on how exactly you run Mage, you can have other options, but like the code, the folder that we have here, this is what I want to see in the homework, right? So that you actually followed all the steps there. And the second question is related. How do I sync my Mage project back to my repo? So like if you just fork the project, then yeah, you can easily push. But then like if you do this as a part of MLOps, your MLOps Zoomcamp repo, then you can just have like a Mage, like this entire MLOps could be that, right? So for example, if you only want to keep the homework in that, maybe you can just do Mage start homework, right? And then you'll have a project homework. And then this is what you can submit. So up to you, like there are thousands of options. And like, Tommy, you wanted to say something? I saw that you unmuted.
Oh, no, you said everything.
Yeah, cool. And then like, how do I sync my Mage project back to my repo? That's another thing. Like sometimes what I saw on Windows, and Ella, as I remember, you also have Windows, is that the volume mapping is kind of messed up on Windows. So instead of the dot, you need to use PWD, right? So this environmental variable. So then it works. So I showed in the video how you do that. And then like because of the volume mapping, all you do in Docker gets propagated to your file system. I don't think maybe that wasn't a specific problem for you. I don't know. But this is what I observed in my situation. I needed to play a bit with the Docker Compose file to make it work. So then everything I change through the Mage UI actually gets reflected in my local file system. So I don't know if the question was about that, but maybe this is related. So the question from Howard. Need more explanation about the use of those blocks. For example, data loaders, transformers, data explorers, and when to use them.
Yes. So technically they're all the same. They're all just Python files that run and execute your code, and then at the end, whatever the return statement outputs, that gets serialized and saved. Why they're broken up in those those groups is simply to be able to create templates for we have out of the box templates to load data from places, to do some transformations, or even to export your data somewhere, let's say to Snowflake, for example. And so that's why they're grouped in that way. You could also, as on your team or personally, you can create your own custom templates and group them under each category. And so that's the main reason for those, but underneath the hood, they all work the same.
Okay, and it's also like semantically just you can easily see what exactly is this doing. Like, is it loading data from somewhere to our internal database, right? Is it transforming the data, or it's actually taking data out of our internal place, right? So then I can look at the block and immediately see what exactly it's doing, right?
Yes. Yep.
But that's the intention, right? Okay. So then the next thing from next question, Howard. Please add a video on how to set up a Mage project from scratch, especially focusing on which files should be added in the project. I think, well, depending on what exactly you mean by scratch, because like we have this MLOps, if it counts as from scratch, I recorded the video that shows how to actually run that. But also the other video about using GitHub Spaces, I also showed you how to just install Mage with pip install without using Docker and whatnot. Hopefully it helps. Like if it doesn't, just let us know in Slack, and we can figure it out. So this is more to answer a question about like what to include in the homework. But your question talks about the project. For the project, Tommy, I don't remember. Do we talk about deploying Mage on the cloud?
We do. The unit 5 does walk you through how to set up your AWS policies and how to set up Terraform and then how to deploy that end to end.
Yeah, so that's the ideal scenario. So you do that, you deploy Mage to the cloud, and then you use it from there. So this is how you set up a Mage project, right? But like, not everyone can do it in the cloud. I mean, maybe like you don't have a credit card that you can use. Maybe you don't have enough time to deploy this to the cloud. Things can happen. You will just get fewer points for not deploying it to the cloud, but you can also keep it locally and use a setup similar to what we did here. So up to you to decide to what extent you want to do this. Ideally, it's the cloud, but you can also do this locally. Hopefully it answers the question. Need more explanation and demonstration about the global data product. I tried to use it in a new pipeline, but I only get an empty list from the dictionary. Yeah.
I believe that's due to the cross project.
Yeah, so we covered that entirely, right? When we talked about that. There is nothing to add. Okay. Why do we need to map git config? And this is actually a question I added because I saw that a few students had problems with that. So when I open Docker Compose, we have this mapping. Git config to.
Yeah.
So why do we need that?
Oh, so that was, you don't need that. What that was for unit 3. Oh no, unit 5 to deploy. We created this pipeline that makes it really easy to just step through creating the AWS policies, pooling the templates. And so that GitHub config makes it easy to be able to auto pool the templates from the Mage repo for the Terraform templates. Of course, you don't absolutely need that. You could just manually pull it yourself. And then if you pull it into your current Mage project, that's automatically mounted already. So you don't need that.
And then also note that if you don't have this file on your local file system, then what happens when you run Docker Compose up is it says, okay, there is no file. I'll create something. And then what it does, it creates a folder with this name, right? And then it's for code spaces, it's super confusing because it expects to see a file there and it finds a folder. So before you run this on code spaces, create an empty file with git config, and then everything will work fine. So I saw that this is also a common problem. So just create a empty git config file, then it will map it as a file, not as a folder, and it will just work fine. Okay, question from Alessandra. The built-in block types are more catered towards data engineering than machine learning. Is there any plan to add blocks for model training, evaluation, etc.?
Oh, absolutely. So a little fun fact, before Mage was what Mage is today, we actually built a closed source machine learning platform. So we have lots of pre-built blocks for data cleaning, data feature extraction, feature engineering, auto ML, all those. And so we're gradually adding more of those back into the open source.
Okay, so this was the inspiration for Mage, right?
Yes.
What's the story actually there? Like, it's not just you wanted to build a better airflow, right? There was more to that.
Yeah, the story is, we, after working at Airbnb, we worked on a lot of data infrastructure and machine learning tools, and so we left and built end-to-end machine learning platform for software engineers or people who are technical but not necessarily machine learning experts or data scientists, to make it really easy to build models, train them, deploy them, and then serve them. This was back in 2020 and 2021, and at the time, there was a lot of excitement from companies, but a lot of companies just weren't ready to use it, weren't ready to use AI or ML, because they just didn't have great data engineering. They didn't have a data engineering team, or they just didn't have great data engineering practices. And so we worked on that for a year and a half. And after the year and a half, we realized, after talking to a lot of the prospective customers and users, that they all needed help with their data engineering first. And so that's when we decided to take what we had and repurpose some of it and build some from scratch. And we created a tool to help companies be better at data engineering, and help people be better at data engineering.
That's cool. I actually didn't know this story. So, like, I thought Mage was your first job after Airbnb, but it's not. I mean, kind of it is, but like you pivoted, right? On kind of.
Yeah, yeah, yes, we did. Yeah,
Yeah. But like it was actually multiple things before you do what you do right now. Yeah, thanks
yeah.
for sharing that. Ella, are we using Mage for module 4 deployment? Will there be more videos on deployment to follow the 3, 5x and 4? Or it's up to us to choose the method? Yeah, actually, like previously we used another tool for deployment, but yeah, so there should be videos, at least one video where we show how to do this, but this will be, so imagine that you kind of already know everything that you need to implement this yourself. Like, of course, we can record the video, but like you have all the knowledge to implement it. So you can just add a block, the transformer block. In this block, you can talk to MLflow to pick up a model using run ID or a name. So you use MLflow, you get the model, and then you use this model to score an incoming data set, incoming data frame, and then you produce another data frame, and that's the result. That's what you output. So practically what it means is you just add a new column to the data frame, which is like, let's say, prediction, and then you output that. So maybe there is more to that, and Tommy will add, but yeah, I think that's like the kind of the baseline. This is where you start from. So you pull the model from MLflow, you apply it to the data frame you have, and you output the result, right? And you already know everything to do that. But like, how does it, do you actually do this practically? Like, how do you use Mage for batch scoring? Like, maybe there is a better way of doing than what I just described.
Well, do you want me to share that, or I was gonna actually
Yeah.
think about that? That was actually part of the what people would have to kind of set up and do, because all the
Yeah.
information is there.
Well,
So I'll give
that will
out.
be homework. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, we should do, because like we previously had a video about that
yeah,
with a different tool, so we should
yep,
do something similar. But I think I described most of this. Like I don't think
yes,
I missed anything,
you
and
did.
probably I did miss or I did describe.
No, no, no. You described it perfectly,
I know what you
and
mean.
and the way the course was handled, every step was as modular as possible. And the great thing about Mage is you take a block, yeah, you can just run it wherever. So if you want to deploy it yourself on Lambda, or run your own anything, you just take those files as is. They're just Python files, import them into whatever framework you want, and then do what you just said.
By the way, is it possible, like let's say I have a step in Mage and I want this step to run on, let's say, AWS batch. Like, do you already have like some sort of recipes for that? Or I would need to create a template for that myself?
You would just create a block, and then let's say you wanted to submit like a training job to SageMaker. You'd have to
For
just use
example,
that Boto3
yeah.
library, and you could submit that. Or you just take your files and just put them on AWS Lambda.
Mhm. Okay. Another question from Alessandro. Can you elaborate on what it means for a project to be currently active? It seems it's still possible to select other projects and execute their pipelines.
Yes. So what the active project does is it sets that as your context, where when you create files or pipelines, it creates it in that project by default. So
And
that's
and you can see this on the dashboard, right? It's because like in this drop-down list, it kind of shows what is the currently active project.
yeah. Yep.
I am unable to run any methods of MLflow within the data exporter block in Q6 homework. Any help or hints? Yeah, like it's hard to answer that without knowing the specifics. Like what exactly, like what do you mean by not able to run any methods of MLflow? Like, does it not run? Does it not finish? Does it not connect to MLflow?
One
Yeah,
thing I
like,
could
yeah.
I'll just try to predict what they're thinking. The in Mage, we have a helper function where you call it, where it tracks the experiment, and that will determine whether or not it needs to set up the experiment for the first time or not, right? Because it'll check it'll do a get experiment. If it doesn't exist, create. So then if you're importing MLflow yourself, and then you don't remember to set up the experiment, that might be one issue. But then again, if you call the create experiment yourself, that works too. So yeah, I would have to know exactly what you mean
Yeah,
by that. Is it like not installed, but it's in the requirements.txt?
yeah. I suspect the reason could be that MLflow is just not reachable. So maybe you should check your Docker Compose config or whatever setup you have in order to run Mage and MLflow at the same time. Could be that Mage does not see MLflow, and then that's why it hangs. Just my assumption. Otherwise, like if they can see each other, then it should just work fine. Another question from Ella. Yeah, thanks Ella for being active and asking so many questions. Continue on the project structuring. Is our repo for demo only, and actually deployment won't have the repeated Python script since we're not following dry? Tommy?
Yeah. So the I shared earlier, and I should have explained it in the docs, but every pipeline or every project is a superset. It becomes a superset of the previous one, right? So like unit 0 has very little files, and then unit 1 has unit 0 and more, and so on, because it builds upon each other. And I set that up just so that if people wanted to look at the snapshot of what the code would look like at that point in time for that unit. And so in reality, though, yes, you would only deploy your final one of your projects. You do not need to deploy all of them. That is duplicate code.
And I have a follow-up question. So let's say I have a structure, like I have a duck, like so I download some data for training, then I prepare the data, then I train a model. And then there is another flow where I also download the data, but from a different month. Then I also prepare the data from a different month, and then I score the the data set. So I apply the model. So these two flows are super similar. The only difference is that in the first case, my last step is training a model, and in the second case, my last step is applying the model. So how do I implement these two flows while reusing as much code as possible?
Yeah, so there's one that what the second one was apply the model, but what was the first
Yeah.
one? Was it
So
train the
the first
model
one
or?
is training. The first one is training the model. The
Oh,
second one is applying the
yes.
model.
So in your
Yeah.
first one, at the end of the training, or once it's done training, you can actually go and create when we do this in I think number 2, but you create a global data product and you just point it to the pipeline that trained the model. And then what will happen is then from another pipeline, which is your scoring one, you add a global data product block, and then you choose the one where that's associated to your model, and then that block will pass down the model or whatever data was output from whatever block that you want, where I presume you return the trained model. And so
Mhm.
from that second pipeline, now you have a block that's the global data product. It's giving you the return output is the trained model, and any of your blocks, let's say your batch scoring block, the positional argument will be that model.
Mhm. Okay. So this is not exactly what I mean. So let me
Oh,
just quickly draw. I think the answer is simple. So I'll just quickly create a presentation. Google Slides. Share my screen again. So can you see it?
yep, yep.
So let's say we have two flows, two pipelines, right? So one pipeline is ingest the data, then transform the data, and then train the model, right? And then at the end, let's say we put the model to MLflow. MLflow. So that's the first flow, right? Then the second pipeline is we again have, so this is what we do for January 2023. Maybe you answered actually this question. I just wasn't able to understand this. And then we do this for February. So this ingest and transform are the same, but the predict block reads from MLflow. So let me just draw an arrow like that. So it reads from MLflow. The arrow is kind of messed up. And then let's say it outputs writes to, I don't know, G like to S3, right? S3. So that's one flow where we train the model. That's another flow, another pipeline where we serve, like when we use the model, the trained model. And these two things, ingest and transform, are basically the same. Like, is there an easy way to reuse this code?
Oh, yes. When you add blocks from different pipelines and into your pipeline, it's referencing the code. It's not duplicating the block, or it's not duplicating the code.
Mhm. Okay, so there is a simple way of doing that, right?
Yep.
Okay. Why can't we install Mage via pip as we did with MLflow? Because not everyone is familiar with Docker. So, well, I first will mention that being familiar with Docker is very important if you want to work in this area. Like if you want to work with machine learning, there is no other way. Like you have to learn Docker sooner or later, and it's better now. Because this is an amazing tool. You need to invest time in learning that. But maybe Tommy, you can comment on actually why can't we install Mage via pip as we did with MLflow.
Yes, I totally agree with you as well. Docker is super amazing, and yes, it's used everywhere. But you can install Mage via pip, and then you just have to then install everything else. But we did it with Docker so that it's a one click, everything comes up.
Yeah, and it's super, like I recorded the video how you run Mage in code spaces. And the only thing I did after creating, like after forking and creating code space, first I did touch git config, right? So then it's not confusing for Git, that it doesn't become a folder. And then I started the script. That's all you need to do, right? Just execute in one command. That's very convenient. But also there is indeed a way to install it with pip, as I showed later in the video. But to me, personally, the first way with Docker Compose is much easier because all you need to do is just execute one command. And then, yeah, later in the homework, when you need to connect to MLflow, you'll need to modify the Docker Compose file a little bit. And then, of course, it assumes that you have the knowledge of Docker and Docker Compose. But also, nobody stops you from just running Mage with pip and then running MLflow in another terminal with pip and then connecting one to another. It's also possible. But I strongly suggest that you spend some time and learn Docker now. Another question from Ella. The version which, when using the alpha tag, does not change from whatever 0970. How do we know we have successfully pulled the updated alpha tagged image when we have rebuilt?
Yeah, so that tag you see there is a tag that pulls from PyPy. And so we update the Docker, we typically update the Docker image faster than we do PyPy. And so you can't tell if you pulled the new one, but when you pull from the UI, but when you pull Mage via the Docker pull command or Docker compose build, you will see some output and you'll be able to see that it's pulling a new one. If it goes super fast, it is most up to date. But if it pulls and it's taking some time, then it's downloading the new Docker image.
Question from Raul. Is it possible to add a Postgres database to the Docker Compose to use both MLflow and Mage? I have to have experiment tracking and orchestration capabilities. Like it already has Postgres. And then like you can of course add Postgres. You mean like adding Postgres specifically for MLflow, not for Mage, like a separate one, I guess. Of course, you can do that, but you can also use SQLite like we suggested in homework question number 6. But maybe Tommy, you can add something.
Yeah, so we first actually, when we were doing the building the course, we did do it with Postgres. All that we did the whole thing, but then what we found out was it would have been a lot more complicated deploying it because then you'd have to create, two different databases inside your RDS, all of that. And SQLite was for MLflow was already amazing and super easy to set up. So then we decided we went back and we just said, yeah, let's just do it in the normal setup because it's already better than it's already super good. You don't need anything above SQLite unless you have 100,000 rows or experiments. So it is perfectly fine. But yes, let's say you work at a big company or maybe you're a startup and you want to really run this in production. I would still say use SQLite for your experiments, and you can always port that over whenever you need to scale up. Don't over complicate things.
But like to actually answer your question, of course, you can go here and add another, like not Magic database, but MLflow database. Like nobody stops you from doing that. Like you can do that. But I would just stick to SQLite for time being. Is there a way to inspect the Docker container built from Mage and MLflow either via Docker Compose or run? I wanted to reinstall MLflow in the container for Q6. Well, there is this command docker inspect. This is what you do to inspect the container, unless I misunderstood the question.
You could also, you get when your container's running, you do docker exec -it, bash, and then you could basically get into the container and do whatever you want there.
So maybe this is what is meant by inspect, like actually log in into the container and do stuff there. Yeah, definitely. And this is actually a good way for debugging. So you can go to the container, doing what just Tommy said, to Mage container, and then start Python there, or even just install telnet and do telnet MLflow, and then stick 000, the port for MLflow, and see like if this is reachable. This is an easy way to actually see if one container can see another container if they run in the same network. Question from Maruf: do we need to clone the Mage repo each time we start a new MLOps project, or do we start from scratch? I think that was just for the course, right, Tommy?
Yes, absolutely. That was just for the course to make it really easy. If you wanted to follow along and not have to start from scratch. But in a real world setting, you can just do Mage start and you'll create the project.
And if I work at the company, then I would deploy Mage to the cloud, right, to AWS or whatever, instead of running it locally, right? Or how would I do that?
Yes, yep, absolutely. Yeah, you could there's different setups. You could deploy Mage to the cloud environment, and then there's a way to set up workspaces for your team, where you can launch your own container, develop there, do all your version control. And then there's also teams that run it locally, and then they push to GitHub and they do their pull requests, merge into master, and they have the CI/CD set up, and their code would just automatically deploy. So there's multiple ways, but the more complicated, not complicated, but the best way is to just run everything on the cloud.
Is there a cloud version yet for Mage?
That is coming very soon in June.
Yeah, okay. So we are keeping an eye on the announcements. So probably next time we run another course or this one, running Mage will become much simpler, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there any chance to unsplit the guide for module 3? I guess because we have a bunch of videos, the question is if we can just make one big video out of all of them. I guess it's a bit late for that, right, Tommy?
Uh, what big video? It's let me think.
I mean, because there are intros and outros. Like if you just make one big video, then I don't know.
It was
Maybe this is something we can consider for another iteration of the course, right?
yes. We split it up just because we didn't want to make it too dense, and we wanted to give people breathing room and be able to uh, view even sub modules of a entire unit. And so we thought that would have been a better way to consume it, but it seems like people love sitting through long videos, and we were afraid people would not want to sit through long videos.
Yeah, like the format we have for the Zoom camps are rather longer videos. So not like 2-3 minutes, but more like 10-15 minutes. So yeah. Is there any integration of Mage with Visual Studio Code using the marketplace extensions?
Yeah, that's a highly requested feature. So yes, that is absolutely that's in the works.
But I guess first we will get to see the cloud, right? And then the extension. Or
Yep.
okay. So looking forward to that. So question from Massimo. There will be a lesson like in the past year, 4.6 scaling and batch scoring jobs with Prefect, but in this case with Mage. I think we talked about that already. So yeah, it's not clear if we will have a video or not, but this is something we will talk about or we will do in the homework. And yeah, like what I mentioned is you already know everything you need to know to actually do that, right? So it's just about putting things we learned so far together, and I think it makes a perfect homework. And we will see about actually creating a video. Is it normal that error makes it impossible to open and fix pipeline? I don't know if I open this Let me stop sharing my screen for a second. So I don't want to share something that I shouldn't. I'll open Slack and then share my screen again. So I guess this is the question. But I think that I already see Tommy there. So I don't need if we need to spend time right now on that, or we can just take it offline and talk there. I'm just marking it as resolved, right, Tommy? Do you mind?
Yep. I'm helping in that thread.
Yeah, and thanks for jumping in and answering. So when I create a load block and transformer block and start a pipeline in Mage, I'm getting error maximum limit of memory usage. Yeah. Well, it also depends where you run. Is it on code spaces? When it's out of memory, what happens with Mage?
Yes. So what happens is Mage will automatically kill all your running pipelines to prevent the entire application from crashing and restarting.
I think this error could be also coming from code spaces when it starts to complain about like not enough memory, and by memory they actually mean the disk space. I don't remember exactly, but then you would need to remove all the Docker images to solve this problem. I don't know, Tommy, what do you think? What kind of problems they are referring to? Is it like a RAM or something else?
Yes, it most likely is the memory because Docker also has a limit on your memory as well. And uh, if it reaches 95%, and it could easily do that if you're running too many pipelines or you're loading a ton of data in memory. It really depends on how you're running things, and maybe the data frame that you created is so it well, the data frame is actually quite large if you keep all the columns and you keep all the rows. So there's like 100,000 plus 100,000 rows, and so if you're doing all of that, and then you're running your hyperparameter tuning in parallel, so then you have let's say 6 jobs running, loading all that data, doing it, looping through it 100 times because you have max evals on. That can absolutely use up a ton of memory.
By the way, where does Mage store intermediate results?
It stores it by default on your file system. You can
It's
optionally have it
Mage
stored.
data, right?
Yes. You optionally have it stored in remote object store like
Mm-hmm,
S3.
mm-hmm,
So you can either do either one.
mm-hmm. Okay. So like when I create an ingest block, so what happens is downloading some data and then putting either in my local file system or uploads it to S3. And then the next step would be just pulling this data from S3 or local file store, transforming it and saving the results, right?
Yes.
So kind of a Luigi way, but we don't explicitly mention where the files go. I don't know, have you ever used Luigi, Tommy?
Used what?
Luigi, yeah.
No,
Yeah, you
no.
worked at Airbnb, you decided to create your own orchestrator.
Yeah, and they like to create everything themselves in-house.
But like if you hadn't done that, then we wouldn't have Airflow, right?
Or Mage, yeah.
Or Mage, yeah, exactly. Anyways, Luigi is just another orchestrator that I used to use like, I don't know, years ago. How do I get back to my code block on Mage after exiting it to rerun it? I guess this question is where the files are saved, or tell me, what do you think? Like what the question is asking?
Well, your code block is, in your pipeline, but you can run it, or that's I think that
Tell me, like the connection is breaking a little bit. Maybe you can you please repeat?
right. So if you, let's say Mage exits, and what you could do is you load it back up, go to your pipeline, and you have that block in, and you could just run the notebook. Maybe I mean that's in the pipeline. You can open it and click on the.
Oops, I think we lost Tommy. So yeah, I wasn't able to follow what he was saying. Maybe my assumption is that the question is asking about like how do you actually locate the code. So you run some Mage, you stop it, and where you find the files. And in case of here, like in case of this one, it's actually you files in this MLOps directory. If I understood your question correctly, maybe you're asking something else. And for example, like there are,
Hello.
data. Hey. So we lost you.
Sorry.
But yeah,
Sorry.
I was trying to answer the question. Actually, like we can take a few more questions and then yeah, just leave it at that. So the question is the next question. You cannot see the questions, right, Tommy? Can you?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to log in from my phone, but I can't see it yet. But I
Okay.
might be able to. Let me.
So I'll try to speak clearly. Let's see if you understand me. Where do we store Mage remotely? How is the structure for orchestration and monitoring in a company? So I guess this question is about using Mage in practice in production, and this is one of the videos is one of the units is talking about that. How exactly do we deploy Mage in the cloud, and how we organize it? Am I right, Tommy?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. We do go over that, but to give a sneak peek, there's multiple ways you could do this. Some people they just run it directly in the cloud and then they sync their data from GitHub. In the video, we show you how to CD pipeline, but it takes your GitHub code, it builds a Docker image using Mage as the base, but then it is embedding your code in there. So then you create a Docker image with the code, it's snapshotted with a SHA specific tag, and then that deploys or that gets pushed to your Elastic Container Registry. And so you have an artifact there that is versioned, you could roll back whatever you want, and that gets deployed. So I think that's what they're referring to.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, this is rather advanced stuff. Like, if you watch the videos, and it doesn't make any sense for you, then just it's okay. Like, maybe you're not there yet. We also cover tools like CI/CD and Terraform. I don't actually remember if we cover Terraform, but we cover definitely CI/CD later in the course. So maybe after checking that material, you can come back and maybe you will make more sense from that if for you this is new. And it's also up to you to what extent you go about deploying Mage in your project at the end. Well, if you want to get the full score, you will need to deploy it. But also it's not a mandatory requirement. You can also just deploy it in the same way as we show in the course in the first units. It's totally fine. So it's up to you to what extent you want to learn the right way of doing that. Could you teach how to do monitoring? I mean, theoretically, what we need to know to decide when it's time to retrain a model. I guess it's not a question to Tommy, but this is one of the modules we have. And the module is called monitoring. And this is module 5. And this one, monitoring. And learn a lot about exactly that. it's not entirely clear on how to implement CI/CD for the entire project. Again, this is another module. You can go here, best practices, and we have a model on CI/CD. Yeah, so this, well, yeah, I can see that we have Terraform, and we have CI/CD with GitHub Actions. So check this out. It's module 6, so like in roughly a month, we will cover that. Is it possible for Mage to work with a Kubernetes cluster, or with different triggers or even dynamic blocks that can be executed in different pods for scalability? This is very similar to what I asked you about AWS Batch or SageMaker, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So that's a very common way companies deploy Mage in production, is they run on Kubernetes, and Mage you could easily set it up to horizontally scale infinitely. So that's what a lot of people do in production.
Where can we find the code that Tommy used in the videos? Is it in the repo? Yeah, so let me quickly show you. So it's in the repo orchestration. So let's take module unit 1, right? So we see there is a video and there is a code. So this is the video where we show how to. Okay. So this is the video where we show how to do this, and then yeah, I know that Tommy, you copy paste the code, and this is the code that Tommy is copy pasting. So you copy this, you paste it, and this is how you find the code. So under each video, you will find it. When I check metadata YAML after starting Mage, I don't have enough lines in it. By enough, I mean they don't match any answer options. So this is, Tommy, I don't know if you saw the homework we created, but one of the questions is checking the metadata YAML file. So I don't know, maybe just describe in Slack what exactly you're doing, and then we can see how to help you. Because like maybe on my machine, the behavior is different from yours if you're following the exact same steps as I. And this is empty, then we can see what's up. Do you have any estimation how much time module 3, including homework, should take? Thank you. Like, it depends on your background and previous experience, anywhere between like 3 hours and 20, I guess. I don't know, maybe Tommy, let's take the last one. Oops. Actually, we don't have that many questions and we still have 6 minutes left, right? So I think we can cover all of this.
Yeah,
And
we should get to the bottom one
yeah,
too. I like the
yeah.
one too.
Oh, should we start with that one? Like, is there a way for us to use polars by default?
Yeah, so there's two answers to this. One is absolutely, if you just use polars and you load the data frame, you return the data frame, it will output, it'll serialize that. Now to run it, you have to check sklearn and XGBoost. I believe they, wait 1 second. I don't think sklearn takes polars by default, but then you can easily do two pandas for that. For XGBoost, we have to create a DX matrix anyway, so then you could do a 2 NumPy, so that will work as well. In the alpha version, you have to turn on a flag, but if you turn on a certain flag, then it will just use Pyro under the hood and return you polar data frames when deserialized from disk. But to answer your question, absolutely.
So whatever you return is serialized, right? So when, for example, this also happens with scikit-learn models. When I return a model, you just serialize the model, right? And then it's up to me. I know what I saved, so I know what I expect in downstream jobs, tasks, right? So then this is how I saved. I know it, right? Or probably it automatically serializes, deserializes. So, but you know what kind of object was there. Will Mage be used in module 4? yes. And going forward, final project. Well, when it comes to the final project, it's up to you to choose which technology you want. You can use Mage, and Mage is a great tool. I highly recommend to use it, but it's up to you. If you want to use Airflow, if you want to use Prefect, if you want to use Duckster, if you want to use any other orchestrator, it's up to you. We recommend to use Mage, but then it's up to you to check. Maybe there is a job that you want and they use a different orchestrator. Still use different orchestrator because they will switch to Mage, I'm sure. But if this is the case, you're free to choose whatever tool you want. Just be sure that in this case, if you use a different tool from the course to describe everything in your README, to explain what the tool is, how to start the tool, and also why you decide to choose this tool. But apart from mentioning that, you're free to, like as long as you mention that, you're free to choose whatever you want. And then the last question, I installed Mage on Codespaces. First approach, I guess you referred to the video I just recorded. Got error, high Codespace CPU utilization detected. Consider stopping some processes for the best experience. Well, I don't know what to say. Maybe consider stopping some process. I don't know, Tommy. Like, did you have any experience, or did somebody report? Did somebody tell you what is the experience of using Mage with Codespaces? Like how problematic it is?
I have not ran into someone that shared that yet. I actually never thought about just running that in code spaces, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got to try it out myself.
This is what we recommend to use as one of the options. Like one of the options is renting a machine on AWS, an instance, and another option is Codespaces because it's very easy. You just click a button and then you get a Linux environment. But like, it's I don't know if it's an error or just a warning, right? So, okay, there is high CPU utilization, but like, does it really stop the code space? Like, can you continue? Maybe just need to wait till everything finishes. Yeah. So, anyways, maybe share more in Slack and then we will see how to help you. And with that, we managed to cover all the questions. I don't remember how many of them were there. Quite a lot, I think. So
On
thanks,
the
Tommy.
dot. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy, for joining us for answering questions. And I also particularly loved the story that you shared. Like it's that Mage is actually not the first thing you did after Airbnb. So there was another thing between. So I did not know that. That was very interesting. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today too, for asking questions, for being active. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the module. You still have 1 week to complete everything. Hopefully everything goes smooth because Tommy now explained everything we need to know about Mage. And if by any chance we missed something, just let us know in Slack and yeah, have fun. I guess that's all. Tommy, do you want to say anything before we finish?
Thank you, everyone, for your patience, support, and looking forward to seeing all of your final projects.
And don't forget to give Mage a star on GitHub. That's very important.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yes, please.
Tommy, that should have been your phrase, right? Or
Yeah, no, I yes, absolutely. Yeah, I should
okay.
have asked, but didn't think of it.
Anyways, so I guess that's all for today, and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye, everyone. Bye, Tommy. Thank you.